Hello, everyone. This is Coach Clayton, and this is a Women's Empowerment Interview episode. And today we have Karey, and she's our guest, and she's going to discuss her amazing journey of overcoming obstacles, both personally and professionally. Hey, Karey, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, very good. And again, I just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy day to chat with me. I truly, truly appreciate it, Karey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been told several times that I should tell this story, and I never have. Actually, it wasn't until my dad was about to pass of kidney cancer that he even found out what really happened. Um, and so a little bit of narrative here. I graduated at 17, had a twin brother, or have a twin brother. He's also my age. We're 50 now. And I my mother and I had a very strained relationship. I was raised in church. Like every time the door was opened, I was there. I was very, very naive, like incredibly naive. Small town, not worldly at all. I mean, we had like a couple of stores. So it was, we had more churches than we had anything else. So growing up, definitely very sheltered. Had a high school boyfriend who was about 4 years older than me. My parents didn't like him. And so we had actually broken up, but my mother had told me a couple of days before graduation that the second that I graduated to get out of her house. And so at 17, I thought that meant very literally, the second you graduated, you better go.
Yeah.
So at 17, I loaded my toothbrush, a couple pairs of underwear, and a change of clothes, because what I had planned for that day of graduation actually wasn't to move anywhere, it was to die. I had intended to graduate. I wanted to walk with my brother, even though I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you felt like you were outside of your body, like you were not in the room. I did not feel like I was in the room at all. I really very vaguely remember a couple of snippets of my graduation. I just, to me, that was it. All I was doing was psyching myself up to take the gun and just be done. And so I had broken up with my boyfriend because I said, hey, before that conversation had transpired, I said, they're not going to let me go to college if I'm still with you. And I just want to go to school. I want to see where my life's going to go. And so we agreed that, if we were meant to be together, we'd be back. And so he had actually found a suicide note in the passenger seat of my car. He had put some flowers in my car for graduation. And, where we grew up way back then, you didn't lock your doors. And he found the note, he read the note, and he followed me out after graduation. I didn't speak to anybody. All I remember is making it through the crowd. If I did speak to him, I don't remember it at all. And went to my car. I had already planned where I was going to do it, where I was going, the whole 9 yards. And so never thought past that day. And he followed me to the car, stood in the driver's side door of the car, and he said, I'm not letting you leave. He said, I read that. You're not doing that. This isn't how your story ends. And so, sorry, it makes me tear up because I really don't discuss it. And he just said, no. He said, I'll take you anywhere. I don't care where it is, anywhere, but you're not going to die today. And you're still in that fog. And I just said, I don't even know where to go. Nobody wants me. And my dad and I had a pretty strained relationship also. I'd overheard a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. And so he and I had been pretty estranged for several months too. So I thought they were both in on it. I thought, nobody's going to believe that this is happening. So that was just how that was going to go. So he got in the car, he pushed me over. He said, you're not leaving. I'm going. I don't care. You don't have to love me, but I'm not going to let you die. And so we ended up in Illinois at his dad's house. His dad was very religious also. And he was like, listen, you're going to have to help me because I don't know how to help her. And his dad and his wife, his stepmother, had basically been on suicide watch until they got me to admit that I wouldn't die. And so his congratulations for bringing me back home was that my parents forced us to get married. And so now, mind you, I wasn't pregnant. I wasn't a drug user. I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't run around. I didn't act stupid. I was just a very sheltered child. And so, and I didn't know how to push back. I didn't know how to say, no, this isn't fair, or no, that's not what happened. I don't even remember talking. I don't remember saying anything other than I don't know what to do. And so needless to say, fast forward, we all thought that because we had had sex and I was in there, what they had told me I was a minor and he was not a minor, that they would have him arrested for statutory rape. What we found out years later was I wasn't even a minor. And the state that I grew up in, age of consent was 16. And so, needless to say, until I was 21, we thought I had to stay married till I was 21. And I did the research, filed for the divorce myself. Needless to say, that was not a marriage. That was just two people just trying to hold it together to get to that age. After that, I went from being shell-shocked from that right into being stalked by a coworker. I worked from 7 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, 5 days a week, and then 8 to 9 hours every weekend, each day of the weekend, just to pay the bills. And so, because back then you didn't make very much money, and had put myself through school, so I had school debt. Now, little brief interlude in there, I had gone to both my grandparents and just said, listen, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be married. We've not consummated anything. Help me. And they both said, we can't help you. We were told not to. But my grandmother did say, listen, I'll co-sign a note for you to go to school. So she did, my grandmother Partridge. She said, but you can never tell anyone that I did it. She's like, I believe that you were meant for more than this, but you've gotten yourself in one hell of a pickle, is what she told me. And I did. But nobody really knew what was going on or what happened. And like I said, I don't talk about it to this day. My mother has never even heard this. And so, so I was on my own and working, had a full-time stalker added to that mix after just finally getting my freedom. Tried to break in my house several times, scared out of my mind, slept with a gun next to my head every day. So I went from trying to kill myself to trying to protect myself. And then finally married, had a son, had been told that I would never have children, or if I did, it was going to be like almost immaculate conception. And so he ended up having a substance abuse problem. And after coming off all that, I was not in a position to help him at all. I was just barely helping myself. We divorced when my son was 3, remarried. I'm married and have been married for 21 years, 22 years. Get in trouble for that one too. I have 2 more kids. I have built a business. I've owned businesses. I still own a business. Been endorsed by celebrities. I had to have my own radio talk show. I moved it to YouTube. Really, basically, if you were to ask me anything, I would say you can survive anything. You just have to keep going, one foot in front of the other. For the longest time, I didn't even have a plan. But the older I get, the more it was, let's just set a goal. And every day was just setting a goal and just trying to reach it to get through the periods where really all I wanted to do was die. And that's still how I solve problems. I've always got a goal. I've always got a plan. And if I don't, then I'm lost.
I can definitely relate to that. I am very goal driven as well. Karey, take me back to being 17 years old and feeling like you wanted to commit suicide. What was it, the part that your mother said, after 17 you have to leave? What made you feel like this is my answer and this is what I want to do?
I think, you grow up and you have a plan. My plan was, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. To this day, I would still love to be a veterinarian, but I'm too old to go back to school.
You're not, but okay.
But I'd always had this dream, and all of a sudden that was just gone, and there was no light at the end of the tunnel anymore. There was no escape. There was just, and I think that was just like what pushed me over the edge. They had paid for my older brother, to go to college. Never offered to pay for mine, never offered any solutions after that. So I knew I was completely on my own, but I was 17 and had no idea what to do. And I think it was just being broken, just, having had the conversations with each one of my parents that had transpired at that point. My mother had said several times growing up, I never wanted a daughter. And that, so all of a sudden you feel like you're always having to earn your worth. And then you get into this rebellious teenage years, which even at rebellion for me was, getting home at 9:30. My curfew was 9. I got off work at 8:30 and we lived 30 minutes from town.
Yeah.
How much trouble did I get into, So yeah, I did have a boyfriend. We had messed around a couple of times, and I was just like, I've disappointed everyone, like everybody in the church knew that I was a disappointment. All I felt like was just this major disappointment, because I always feel like I have to do everything a certain way. I have to be perfect. If I don't, nobody loves me. Or if I fail, nobody loves me. And I think it was just from, always feeling like I had to earn my love. And so, but it took me until I was a lot older to figure any of that out. It was really just trying to live through the day. And, you don't understand depression. You don't understand, at 17, I'm still going through hormones, hormones that you don't understand. And trying to cope with it all. And feeling very much alone. I mean, as much as for years I wanted to blame him, he actually did save my life. And he, would I want to go out and have dinner with him now? Probably not. But, there was a lot of stuff. He was forced into something that wasn't fair to him either. So, it was just, I don't know. I think it really was, there was no direction. There was no plan. I no longer had a plan. I didn't have hope. I had no hope for the next day. And even then, coming back after his family, saving my life, I still, for years, never felt like I never thought I would make it to 50. I didn't think I was going to make it to 20. And so, and not knowing who to turn to, or if to say anything, or if I did say anything, is it going to make it worse? And who knows? I mean, I guess we're about to find out. Yeah. So I don't know. I think really, if you're 17 and you're lost, remember some of that's hormones, and some of it is you're not supposed to know what your future is at 17. I didn't know that. I thought I had to have a plan. I think you just have to let yourself be a child for a little bit and determine what that next step is.
Yes, Karey. Yes, because it sounds like with your upbringing, you were supposed to be perfect, not really knowing what perfect was. Like, who knows what perfect is? You weren't allowed to be a child. You weren't allowed to make mistakes. You didn't have a safe place to fall, which should have been your parents in your home, which is very, very hard. And instead of having a safe place to fall and support, you were left out. You were basically given the message that you're no good. You know what I mean? Like, what mistakes weren't forgiven, and it's okay to make mistakes and things like that, and to be yourself. And that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, I think, and so, not that I have anything against church at all. I mean, I was raised in church, love the Lord, all that good stuff. But what I would say is, to all the people out there that would rather sit on judgment than they would to understand, you probably should look at your own life, because looking back at the people that were a part of all of that, they were far from perfect. As a matter of fact, they were worse than I was. But
Yes.
they felt the right or the entitlement to judge someone else. And
Mhm.
um, you know, I don't understand that. Why weren't the conversations held differently? You know, my grandmother, I'd actually gone to my mother's mother and told her, listen, you know, I don't want to be married. I just want to go to school. I know that everybody thinks I messed up, but
Mhm.
that's not what happened that day.
Mhm.
And what she said was, you can spend the night, but if your mother gets word that you're here, you have to leave because I'm not going to
Wow.
lose my daughter. And which said to me that, you don't matter. And
Mhm.
so my mother did get word that she thought I was there. So she had shown up. I had actually hidden in a closet in their bedroom, so that she wouldn't know that I was there, so that my grandparents wouldn't get in trouble. And so she just told me as soon as my mom had left, she said, tomorrow morning, we're going to take you back to your car and you can't come back. And
Wow.
I said, but I don't know what to do. And so she
Mhm.
went and she got a bag and she put lingerie in it. And she told me, she said, figure it out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so now, mind you, she got married at 14 and married a man at 20 that was 24,
Mm-mm.
had her own issues.
Mhm.
And, you know, just, I guess that was my way of saying, to me, that was her way of saying, listen, that's your worth. Um,
Yeah.
so I went back to him and we just muddled through and, just like, listen, we got to hold out. So you're 21. We both led separate lives.
Mhm.
Uh, Looking back, I don't think it was never like volatile or anything like that. It was just very strange. Um,
Mhm.
just incredibly strange. What do you do when you're forced to be married to somebody? Um,
Exactly.
we knew we weren't
Mhm.
going to live happily ever after, have kids. We were just trying to make it through. And we were
Mhm.
the talk of the town, which was worse. So,
Oh man. Oh
yeah,
man.
it's funny.
When
My kids,
oh go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go
My
ahead.
kids always say, Mom, why don't you want to live in the town you grew up in? Everybody knows who you are. And I said, that's why.
I just one thing that I never understand um is that adults that don't want to help kids or young adults or teenagers that are in trouble. I don't understand that and not realizing that we are a product of where we came from.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think that I'm hoping that someone can hear this and that this can change the way that they think of things. It's not that it's, oh my gosh, it's a terrible teenager or a terrible young adult. It's what have they gone through? What
Yeah.
trauma have they gone through to make them make the decisions that they made?
Mhm.
And it's not the fact that they're terrible or they're bad. No, it's like, how can I help? Because they obviously need help. And it's
Yeah.
not, they're the ones who should be saved, not grown adults who had their life and who are making decisions that they shouldn't be making. No. These are the people that we need to save, the young adults, the teenagers, people who are exhibiting behaviors that you don't understand. There's a reason why. And I think as adults, as a responsible adult, you need to figure out why. Why are they making these decisions? You
Oh,
know?
yeah. I had a conversation recently with someone that I care about, and we were talking about childhood.
Mhm.
And the person that told me, he said, I always felt like I was the outlaw or the black sheep or, the bad one. I'm like, well, I can relate to that.
Mhm.
And I said,
Mhm.
but why do you feel that way? Because nobody sees you that way. And the person said, I was so broken and nobody was there to help me. And I'm like, the way the person was talking, I was like, were you abused? And the person said, yeah, I was. And, I, the sexual abuse. And I said,
Mhm.
did you ever say anything? He said, no, they told me that they would kill me
Mhm.
and that they would pour gasoline on me and light me up. And so, no, never said a word. And the weird thing about the person is the way I see him is, and the way I think their siblings see him is, they were the adventurer. They were the one that got out, that went and ran away and tried all these crazy things and did all these crazy things and just explored and, all of that. And
Mhm.
in this person's mind, that's not at all what happened. He was the broken one and the bad black sheep and the disappointment and so I said, it's crazy, isn't it? Your childhood forms who you are, and it even forms your own opinions of yourself that nobody even sees. And
Mhm.
I said, it's crazy how broken people are, and they don't even realize it. Um,
Mhm.
and he just started tearing up, and he was like, "Yeah, I didn't realize that people saw me that way. That they saw
Mhm.
me as something adventurous or strong, and I think that's part of it. You know, I've had several people tell me when I'm like my most broken, they're like, "Yeah, you see something nobody sees." We
Mhm.
see somebody that, stands up for others or will discuss anything and, put yourself out there, get in front of people. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. I don't know why, because
Mhm.
the person I was talking to is very similar to me.
Mhm.
It seems like we feel like we need to help everybody else, but we don't know how to help ourselves. So,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
same thing, you act out, you don't know any different. Had I had handled that differently, had I been mature enough to handle that differently, would life have been different? Most likely. But, you know, hindsight's always 2020, and when you're 50, you're looking at 17, it always looks different,
It
you know?
always looks different. And you did the best that you could at with what you knew at 17.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm just like, you did a very good job. I feel bad that you felt like that was the way out because you didn't have the support. You did not have the support.
I don't think anybody, I don't I don't think I had time to formulate any other plan. I mean, it had just happened a couple of days prior to,
Mm,
and it was just like a tipping point. It was just like,
yeah.
um, to me, the easiest decision was to not to have to make one anymore, really.
Mhm.
Um, and even what followed after that, had I had a voice, had I had courage to say something, um, you know, just admit my own story. Um, like I said, my mom to this day does not know that I intended to die that day.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's my own stubbornness to say, you know what, I was put in that situation. I don't feel like you deserve a reason.
Mhm.
Um, would that have changed things? Would that have changed our relationship over the years? Maybe.
Mhm.
But you also have to own your side of it. And I don't know that that's going to happen. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, you know, you're raised in such a way that there's so much judgment around you.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't do anything like a lot of the people that I grew up with. I mean, I could tell
Mhm.
you stories to curl your
I'm
toes.
sure. I'm sure.
So I mean, to look back and think, wow, I was the one that got to be made the example of, that made me angry too. But um I would say as a kid, if you're put in that situation, look around you, but also use your voice. I mean, with my kids, I I'm like, listen, I don't care what you're going to do. I'm going to show up at your door every day.
Yeah.
You're never going to
Mhm.
shake me. We had all the conversations about sex growing up. If
Yeah.
you're going to make the decision, don't be stupid, you know? Um,
Mhm.
just, I really wanted to instill in them that they weren't alone.
Mhm.
Because I didn't ever want them to feel like they were. And I talk to them every day. I mean, um, couldn't be more proud. And
Mhm.
everybody keeps telling us we've got such great kids, and we're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we keep waiting for them to ask for a check for social, to go to counseling for the rest of their life. Uh, I think what it did is it taught us to be better parents. Um,
Yes. Yes.
um,
Absolutely. Mhm.
they're not perfect either, but our kids they're smart, they
Mhm.
are articulate, if they've got something to say, I feel like they say it. Um, you
Mhm.
know, they're like any other kid. They had stuff growing up where we
Yeah.
were. we were having dinner one night and they're all laughing and joking and they're like, yeah, this is what I did in high school. I'm like, your dad was saying that's what you were doing. And I was saying, there's no way I would know.
You, what I love to hear, Karey, is that you poured into them what you didn't have, and you created amazing human beings. That's what that is. That's what that is. Instead of carrying forward generational curses, you said, not in my house. And I love that. I love that. Yeah.
I refuse to let them go through life that way.
And it sounds like that they have a safe place to fall. They have someone that they don't have to go always be out in the streets asking other people for advice. They can come home to you and you will give them advice that they need because they feel safe enough to bring up any subject that they want to with you. That's what kids need.
Yeah, they really do. You know, and if you're a parent and you grew up and you chose the path of repeating what you went through, stop for a minute and just ask yourself, is that really what you want for the human that you created?
Yes.
Because looking back, do I think my parents probably had some pretty rough upbringing or things that, you know, put them in the position to feel that way? Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody just becomes broken out of nowhere. I just don't, you know, you're 17, you don't relate to any of that. All you see is the good, and you don't understand how to even formulate opinions about what an adult's doing that might be wrong. You know, you take the weight of the world on, plus you're hormonal. And nobody ever makes good sense when they're hormonal. Ask a pregnant woman. You know,
it's true. It's so true. So true. Wow. Karey, so I'm going to give you a scenario. There could be some young woman, some young man that's like watching this video that's thinking that it's just not worth, life is just not worth living. What is the key thing that you would say to them?
Number one, find somebody you can trust and talk to them. And be very careful about who that is. You know, broken tends to find broken, and sometimes broken doesn't give good advice. So, you know, even if it's professional help, admit that you need it. If you don't have the money for that, look for someone in the church that you admire, or, you know, someone safe. Look at their life and just say, you know, hey, does everything look like it's going okay? Because sometimes when you're vulnerable, people take advantage of the vulnerability. And that ends up compounding the problem. So be very selective. And know that that's just today. It's not the end of your story. You know, everything changes. It's just whether or not you choose to stay where you are. I mean, you could look back at me at 17 and say, how could that have turned out differently? I didn't have kids. I didn't have kids till I was 23. I was remarried, and that was a fluke. I mean, I wasn't ever supposed to have kids. If you look at how I conceived kids, I was sick every single time. It's just like, my body was like, okay, we'll let you in. But, you know, it's not like I could have turned to drugs. I was handed a bag full of lingerie and told to figure it out. I had enough self-worth about me to say, that's not who I am. So I think really you have to have some of your own goals to say, what do I want to be? What, if I could look ahead in 20 years, who is that person? And that's the person you work for every day. You get up and you build the life that makes that person. Because, I mean, that's the best advice I can give. That's what I did. I just kept saying, who's the person I want to be? And there are times in my life, even as an adult, that I look at and say, I'm not where I want to be, or this doesn't serve me anymore. You don't grow out of mean people. They just grow older. And so you've got to align yourself with people that make you feel what you need to feel, appreciated, loved, encouraged. The conversations need to be good conversations around you. So find those people.
Yes.
If those aren't your people, find a new group. They're out there. And just do your best to just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. It's very important to protect your energy and to only be around the energy that makes you feel good. And that's you feel is supporting you. Absolutely.
And if you can't be around you and work on that energy, work on your health, work on your, mindset, read, there are different ways of doing that. There's so many opportunities out there. I mean, you can basically put yourself through school and get a trade through Google. There are so many things that you could do. So if you can't find those people, you be your own person.
That's right. That's right. Karey, you're amazing. You are absolutely amazing. And you've overcome so much, but you were able to stay strong, reflect, and turn things around. You're married, you have well-adjusted, happy kids. You're amazing. Now, we're going to stir things around a little, and we're going to discuss your successes. I want to discuss your businesses that you have. Because this shows that you can overcome anything to become a success. Karey, tell us about your businesses and what they are.
So I'm a real estate broker. I've actually owned my own franchise. I closed it after 5 years, decided that the energy that went into that wasn't healthy for me. So I'm still a real estate broker. I actually work with eXp Realty. I had a radio talk show, which was called Real Estate 101 with Karey Brown for 6 years. And recently turned that to podcast, interview agents around the world and, put content out there that helps people, with everything from understanding investments and real estate and how to plan for the future, how to plan for end of life as far as your assets are concerned. All of that. So that's really where my passion is. I have a real estate team. And it's been as many as 21 people. Found out that didn't serve my energy very well.
I'm sure.
That made me want to drink.
Yes, I'm sure.
I met 7 people and I love every one of them. It's a lot of really good energy and I'm happy. I also own a female version of my husband's company, which is a disaster relief business. It's called CDC Disaster Relief and Hauling, which is kind of funny because CDC probably wasn't the best business. But it's after my kids, which are Cody and Cassidy. And so, definitely didn't think that through. So anyway, and so we, it's a female-owned business and help people after disasters clear tree debris.
Nice.
So, I also interview local businesses, and I actually have a series starting next week that where the city helps businesses like renovate buildings and all kinds of stuff. The things that our local area does to help businesses, because there's so much out there that when you start a business, you only know what you're living.
Yes.
And there's not enough resource to understand that there's other things, or if you are smart enough to go out to find the resources, do you have the time to read and understand it? Exactly. So basically getting all those guys on video and having them break it down and making that easier. So
nice, very nice. Karey, you are definitely showing and inspiring people, letting them know that it doesn't matter where you start. It's your mindset, your tenacity, and just being positive, that can absolutely turn things around. You are definitely a rock star, Karey.
Well, thank you.
You
Not, and
are.
I would just say that know that as adults, you have bad days too. You have
Yeah.
days where you're like, man, just don't make me make another decision today.
Mhm.
And you also end up in wrong friend groups,
Yeah.
you end up around people that suck the energy right out of you. Uh,
Yes.
and you still have to do the same thing you do as a teenager. You have to decide, okay, this isn't serving me and I've got to walk away from it.
Mm.
Understanding that and knowing that it's okay. It's okay to say,
Mhm.
listen, I can't do this. You're not my people. This isn't my place. And I'm not happy here. And walking away and saying it's okay to be that way. I think, especially my generation, we grew up so much in people pleasing
Mhm.
and feeling like, everything you do is for somebody else, that it gets really hard to understand that people will use that to its fullest extent.
Mhm.
And sometimes you've got to serve you. You've got to, I'm not saying be self-centered or be a narcissist. What I'm saying is it's okay to say, listen, I need better energy.
Yeah.
I need to move away from this.
Mhm.
And understanding that it's for your own mental health to do it. And it's okay.
Mhm.
Stop putting so much pressure on yourself to be perfect, because guess what? It doesn't exist.
That's
And the
right.
people that make you think it does, they're liars, because they aren't
Mhm.
either. So,
Mhm.
you know,
I
just
love
just keep
it.
moving.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Karey, for spending your time, your Saturday morning with us to discuss your obstacles and your journeys and just inspire women. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Karey.
Absolutely happy to do it.